Our Republican Senator Joni Ernst joins me. Nice to see you.
Thank you. Great to be with you, Greta.
It seemed like Saudi Arabia was going to sign on to the Accords right before October 7th of 2023. And everyone seemed so optimistic, and then October 7th happened. What was your sense about Saudi Arabia the other night?
Absolutely. Well, I was very optimistic after leaving that historic meeting with the Crown Prince. I will tell you, I was up close and personal on October 7th. I was actually in Saudi Arabia. I was leading a congressional delegation of House and Senate members. We had met with the Crown Prince the evening of October 6th.
So you're old friends.
Old friends.
Yeah.
But no, we left that meeting, though, very optimistic. We were overjoyed because at that point in time, the Crown Prince had indicated there was a path forward to normalization with Israel. We wake up the morning of October 7th on our way to Israel, and we find out Israel has been attacked. It did sideline those discussions now for 2 years, but I do feel like we are back on track. There are still some significant parts that need to be worked out.
But it seemed that, I mean, I don't remember the two-state solution as being a prerequisite 2 years ago, but when this war broke out, now Saudi Arabia says that there's got to be a path forward for Palestinians for a state. And Prime Minister Netanyahu and his party, I believe, if my memory is correct, has said that this is not going to happen.
Yes, and what cannot happen is Hamas can't be rewarded for the attacks on October 7th. And many would see a two-state solution as rewarding Hamas. But this is yet to be determined. But we know now there are some lines that have been drawn. We need to figure out how to move forward on that.
You know, meeting with the Crown Prince, and there's a lot of controversy because the CIA has said that he acknowledged or admitted or did something or contributed to or whatever, okayed the literally chopping up of the journalist Khashoggi, who worked for the Washington Post. But it is a fact that we have to meet with very unsavory people to move things forward, and it's sort of difficult sometimes to explain to people, like, how can you talk to him? We dealt with Stalin in World War II.
Right. And that's where diplomacy has to have its role. We have soft power, we have hard power. And in the United States, the preferred method of working through any disagreement will always be soft power or diplomacy. And sometimes it is very difficult in meeting with people that you have severe disagreements over. But if it means greater peace and prosperity for the United States and for the Middle East, we should find a path forward.
It's also sort of hard, like when I've talked to people who have done terrible things, I look at them and I think, you know, as I have a very cordial conversation, I think, how in the world could you have done that?
Right, exactly.
I mean, it's just so unthinkable because, you know, we don't do those things. All right, turning to Iowa, the great state of Iowa. Farmers in Iowa, I've been reading, are having a hard time. There are a lot of bankruptcies already this year.
Yes, and this is the third year of declining farm revenue. So this is not a new phenomena that our Iowa farmers are facing. We saw this under President Joe Biden, where there were absolutely no trade deals for our farmers. We see greater trade deals now in the Trump administration, but it will take a time to recover. So we're on the right path, but we know that input costs have gone up for our farmers. The input costs are greater than what they're receiving on their commodities like corn and soybeans. So additional trade, additional consumption of those products here in the United States, lowering those input costs, all of that will put us on a path to stabilizing our farm economy.
When you sat down, we sort of exchanged with small talk, and I said, I'm from a farming state, you're from a farming state, but you actually have better experience. You grew up on a farm.
I did. I grew up on a corn, soybean farm in southwest Iowa. We had hogs until I was about high school aged, but my family still farms. My dad still lives on the farm that I was raised on. My sister and brother-in-law do the farming in our family right now, but it's a wonderful livelihood for so many families in Iowa.
And your colleague, Senator Grassley, is an actual active farmer in his 90s.
He is. He was ready to get on the plane today wearing his John Deere hat and his blue jeans.
Is it, you know, farming, I love the small farm, but it seems that corporate farming has sort of taken over. Is it, are the small farms, they're done?
So I don't think so. In Iowa, small farms prevail. We have 89,000 family farms across the state of Iowa. It's a great place to live and grow. Every weekend I go home, I get to spend time out in the countryside with my brother, my sister, my family members. It truly is a great way to live. And God bless our farmers. America needs farmers.
And we have such a robust trade with China over farm products. Even the president.
We do.
When I was in Iowa one time, I think the Iowa farmer who hosted me, I think, said that President Xi, who had gone to school had years ago been on some exchange program or been in Iowa.
He did. President Xi lived for a short while near Muscatine, Iowa, eastern Iowa, and the family that he had stayed with, I believe, is still on their family
But that's
farm
where I was.
as well.
That's where I was because
Muscatine, Iowa.
They were talking about the fact that the president of China had spent time on their farm.
Yes, and that's how he developed that relationship with our former governor, Terry Branstad, who then in the first Trump administration became the ambassador to China under President Trump. So it is a relationship that has stood the test of time. There is a lot of trade that occurs between Iowa and China. Unfortunately, China does take advantage of the American farmer by canceling contracts, then lowering their bid price, renegotiating. So in the end, the American farmer does get hurt by China, but we absolutely do want those contracts.
How about the tariffs that the president's opposed? Does that have any impact?
I think he was pushing back on China to reset the trade policy, and I think he has done that. Now, we have secured additional soybean contracts with China after his last discussion with President Xi. They've committed to buying soybeans in this year and many more in the outlying years. So we just need to make sure that we are holding them to those contracts.
All right, the government shutdown, that's over, but it's not really because January 29th, the continuing resolution is only short term. So are we going to go through this drama again, or is there progress being made on the Hill?
Well, heavens, Greta, I hope not. So what we do see is movement with an additional 5 appropriations bills that our chair, Susan Collins, hopes to be able to package together, get those next 5 appropriations bills over the finish line. At that point, then we will have funded 90% or better of the federal government prior to that January 30th deadline. So let's pray we can all get along and get it over the finish line.
There should be some provision because everyone's sent to Washington and the members of Congress, the Senate, to run the government. And then when there's a shutdown, the House and the Senate, because it's a different appropriations constitution, you still get paid. And these people aren't getting paid.
Right, exactly. And that's where all of the Iowa delegation, all of us said we will not take our pay until other federal workers are paid. So we had our pay held as well. But this is a discussion amongst the members in the Senate, is if our workers and federal workers, the military, they are not getting paid, we should not be receiving our paychecks either. I think we all agree with that. So John Kennedy has a measure that addresses member pay, so we are considering that. There are other options out there as well, just simply not to go through government shutdowns.
I did not know that Iowa delegation didn't get paid, because we only report bad news and horrible things. We never report good things that you all are doing. So anyway, I tip my hat to the Iowa delegation. Thank you very much, Senator Joni Ernst. Thank you.
Thanks, Greta.
People think news just happens. It doesn't. It happens because there's someone there to capture the moment, to explain it and share it. That's my job. I go where news breaks and give you the facts. Join me for The Record on Newsmax.